Right, just getting some ash from the fire. Well, the first thing I need to do is to sieve this out. So I just got some bulk ash there, it's got some charcoal in it, all these sorts of things. I'm just going to sieve that down to a very fine powder, probably a silt and clay fraction. So I can mix that with equivalently fine clay and rhyolite that I've also got. So there's going to be a 3-part glaze of wood ash, by which is the wood ash component, rhyolite and clay. Sort of gravel, coarse sand, fine sand, and we've got silt, coarse silt, and like a, well, actually that's a very fine sand, then we've got silt. So this is a triaxial blend of the 3 different types of ingredients going into the glaze. So on the bottom left here I've got wood ash from the fireplace. That's rich in potassium. It's basically it's potassium hydroxide rich, especially when you add water to it. But yeah, wood ash from mainly eucalyptus timber. On the bottom right here, this is pure kaolinite clay, and this just comes from a project I was working on. It comes from about 50 meters under the ground in a shear zone in a feldspathic rich sandstone, feldspathic sandstone. So with the shear through the sandstone, it's made it into almost pure kaolinite. There's probably a bit of quartz as well. And on this corner up here is rhyolite. So it's a silica and feldspar rich volcanic rock. So what I'm testing here is what happens when you have pure ingredients on the ends, and everything in the middle is a combination of either end of the axis, or in the middle it's a combination of all three. So this corner is 100% ash, this is 80% ash and 20% kaolinite, this is 60% ash and 40% kaolinite, 60% kaolinite and 40% ash, 80% kaolinite, and 20% ash, and then that's 100% kaolinite. And it works that way all the way up the pyramid. So up the side here we've got the varying degrees between kaolinite and rhyolite, and on this side we've got rhyolite down to ash, and in the middle these 6 samples here have combinations of all 3 ingredients. So these are all fired to stoneware temperature. The initial clay here, this is just a white raku clay that was bisqued. Then I painted on these mixtures, which I weighed out. It's all by weight, the percentage differences. And then make up a small slurry, paint that on, then that gets fired to stoneware. So this is a mix of 3 ingredients, so the wood ash from the fire, the kaolinite clay, and the rhyolite. And all it is a way of seeing what all 3 ingredients look like when you fire them. And for me, the take-home message here was the pure kaolinite all the way up to the pure rhyolite. That didn't really melt, so didn't really get hot enough to melt. So you don't get a glassy appearance at all. But the second row, which is the same proportions of kaolinite to rhyolite, but with 20% of wood ash added to it, suddenly you're seeing the glassy luster. And as we get more and more wood ash, then it gets glassier. The actual pure wood ash one was not as glassy as the ones in the middle. So there's a happy medium here, probably number 13, which is a mixture of all 3 ingredients, where you get the glassiest appearance. And the interesting thing about that is that the wood ash acts as a flux, which reduces the melting point of the mixture of all 3. So if you add all 3 together, particularly the wood ash though, the wood ash brings the melting point down of the overall mixture. So what normally wouldn't melt, like the rhyolite and the kaolinite, suddenly it does if you add wood ash. And you can see how glassy, probably if I get down an angle here, you can see how they get more of a glassy luster as you move towards the wood ash. But particularly right in the middle, in this zone here. So interesting test. I don't particularly like the colour, but it's just 3 ingredients that I found, and it's interesting to make a new glaze from scratch. So that's that. And you can do this experiment with any 3 combinations. So if you just had kaolinite clay and say like a sandstone and a wood ash, or if you had basalt, kaolinite clay and wood ash, you could have wood ash and like a siltstone, and then you could have a granite, or you could have wood ash, granite and quartz, or there's so many different combinations you can have here. And you can also subdivide. Say for example, if I like these 3 the best, or say this one best, you can redo a 21 triaxial with just finer gradations between, say, these 3 tiles. So I could reproduce this whole thing, but just rather than starting at 100% and of each ingredient in each corner, I'd start with the proportions of these 3 on each corner, and then have a finer gradation between them, and then you can use that to pick out the perfect, glaze if you want. So it's an interesting experiment. So that's the first one I've done, but pretty happy with how it turned out. And to me, probably number 13 is the one I'd prefer the most. So that's 40%. What are we looking at here? So yeah, 40% of wood ash. I think we're up to, it's about it's about 20% kaolinite, and it's about 60% 40, 50, 60, you know, 40% rhyolite, something like that. So it's pretty much an even split between the three, that one, and it does give the best sort of glassy luster. Anyway, I'll leave it there.